Reverb. Do you use it? Of course you do. We all do. It's the most fundamental effect we have at our disposal in a mix. Our music wouldn't have any sense of depth or realism, sounding clinical and one-dimensional if we didn't mix with at least some reverb. So, it's absolutely essential. Reverb puts space around our tracks and gives a front-to-back immersion that has the power to glue everything together in a mix. But how do you go about working with reverb? Do you start from scratch with the controls, or do you scroll through presets? I'm assuming for many of you, it's the latter. Now, there's no shame in being a preset surfer. We all do it. But when we're working with reverb, we shouldn't just find a preset, throw it on a track, balance the wet dry, and call it a day. No, we should at times be a little bit more adventurous with the controls. In this video, we're going to look at 9 of the most important reverb properties you absolutely must know if you want to go beyond working solely with presets. First, let's quickly touch on presets, simply because they provide excellent starting points. Now, type and size are the main characteristics your ear catches when switching between different sounds.
When the sun goes down and the moon rises high, I lay back on my pillow and think only of you. And I'm painting all of this on my tapestry, the good, the bad, and the nowhere stuff.
Reverb types are a pool of imitated environments, each with their own distinctive qualities. Now, common flavours in most reverbs are churches, halls, chambers, and rooms, though it's not uncommon to find some vintage mechanical reverb styles as well, such as springs and plates. Larger types, such as churches and halls, are great for thickening up mixes and adding space to tracks, while smaller types, such as rooms, are excellent for adding a natural sense of colour and energy, and are easier to place in a mix. Size and time are both related to one another. Size lets you pick how large or small you want your virtual room to be. Decay time determines how long it takes for reverb to fade away altogether. On first impressions, large reverbs with long decay times tend to sound really exciting and lush when auditioned in isolation.
She said, I'd love to think things over, but it wouldn't change a thing.
However, it's not uncommon for this style of reverb to rob valuable definition from a mix.
She said, I'd love to think things over, but it wouldn't change a thing. 'Cause I've known now for so long that I'm not supposed to wear this ring.
A good way to control the effects is to reduce the decay time values to around 1 to 2 seconds. This way you can still blend in powerful reverbs without blurring or bloating your mix.
She said, I'd love to think things over. She said, I'd love to think things over. She said, I'd love to think things over, but it wouldn't change a thing. 'Cause I've known now for so long that I'm not supposed to wear this ring.
Early reflections are the first delays that come directly from the room boundaries. They're a tightly bunched set of delayed tap sounds that can come across more as an EQ tone than a reverb effects.
I stepped up to the plate. I stepped up to the plate. I stepped up to the plate.
Now, early reflections reach our ears a few milliseconds or so after the dry signal and play a big part in telling our brain how to interpret the nature and size of an environment. So if you increase the level of your early reflections alongside your reverb tail, you are in effect adding a short ambient character and impact to your reverb without pushing any more wash into the mix. In most reverbs, you'll have 2 controls for balancing both the level of early reflections and the reverb tail.
I stepped up to the plate. I've tried to demonstrate. I stepped up to the plate. I've tried to demonstrate. I stepped up to the plate. I've tried to demonstrate.
Pre-delay moves the onset of reverb back in time from the direct sound and is a great way to get some perceived depth and distance out of a reverb without blurring elements in a mix. This pause stops reverb effects engulfing the initial impact of a direct sound too quickly. If your reverb is washing out the impacts in, say, a vocal or an instrument, then pre-delay is one of the quickest and easiest ways to put some clarity and focus back into your tracks.
When the sun goes down and the moon rises high. When the sun goes down and the moon rises high. When the sun goes down and the moon rises high, I lay back on my pillow and think only of you. And I'm painting all of this on my tapestry, the good, the bad, and the nowhere stuff.
By default, reverbs let you set pre-delay in milliseconds, but many also give you another more straightforward option for syncing pre-delay to your session's tempo. Damping pertains to how much absorption occurs to specific frequency ranges in reverb, consequently controlling a reverb's timbre as it decays. If you want a bright-sounding reverb, think of how an empty room sounds with barely any absorption. This is what high-frequency damping can simulate if you adjust the strength accordingly.
I wait all night, that's fine. I wait all night, that's fine. I wait all night, that's fine. I wait all night, that's fine.
To better understand diffusion, simply think of it as reverb density, with reverb sounding thicker and somewhat more rounded with higher levels of diffusion. Lower levels tend to tame reflections with results sounding thinner in comparison.
Still not relief, you're sweet. Still not relief, you're sweet.
If reverb comes across as overpowering, try dialing diffusion down, just to give a bit of energy back to the source. Though if you go too far, your reverb may start sounding somewhat clangy and metallic.
Still not relief, you're sweet. Still not relief, you're sweet.
As a rule of thumb, vocals and instruments work rather well with lower levels of diffusion, which can help things from sounding too washed out in a mix. But don't overlook higher levels of diffusion, as these tend to work quite well on drums. Let's talk EQ, which you can apply to reverb in two ways. You can either EQ signal feeding into a reverb, or after EQing a reverb's output. Reverb plugins typically give you the tools to do the latter, which is handy for controlling resonances and, of course, shaping the overall tone and colour of reverb. But it's well worth also playing around with the pre-processing approach, being EQing the input before hitting the effects. If your reverb doesn't have built-in EQ, insert a paragraphic EQ before the reverb, but make sure this particular chain is within an effects return workflow. This doesn't work the same if you EQ into a reverb directly inserted on a source track. EQing into a reverb affects how the reverb reacts, most notably used in the Abbey Road reverb trick. This method eliminates high and low frequency sound from entering the reverb, meaning decays in those filtered out areas will not develop, giving focus and clarity within the effects. To set up the Abbey Road reverb trick, set your EQ's high-pass filter to 600 Hz with a 12 to 18 dB per octave slope, and a low-pass filter at 10K with the same slope. Use this as a starting point, and if necessary, tweak to taste.
Yet he still keeps a place at the table. Only sleeps on the side of his bed. He forget, but he just isn't able to let go of the thoughts in his head. Yet he still keeps a place at the table. Only sleeps on the side of his bed. He forget, but he just isn't able to let go of the thoughts in his head.
Typically in the form of chorus, modulation in reverb dates all the way back to the earliest incarnations of digital reverb hardware developed in the 1970s. Its purpose was to emulate natural time variations that occur in real acoustic spaces, but it couldn't really achieve that goal. Now in modern reverb software, super realistic reverb sounds can easily be recreated, so why do we still see modulation? I'll tell you why. It's because modulation is a great way of adding an extra layer of dimension and colour and atmosphere to your ambiences. Take a listen to this.
Like I can't wait to find something that's mine. I can't wait to find some peace of mind. When the darkness is all that I can see, I know I'll find the light inside of me.
Now, if you're serious about producing music, then there's no excuse for not grasping at least one or two of these basic reverb controls. They'll help you develop as a producer who ultimately mixes better, more considered and deliberate sounding records. For more information on the reverbs featured in this video, be sure to click that card at the top right of the screen, link in the description below. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Dan from Waves, and I'll see you again soon.